Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Episode 203 of Sports Card Nation. Glad to be back and glad to have someone back on today's show that we had on. It's been almost 2 years, I believe, calendar years. He was on episode 99, which I joke is apropos. We didn't really do that on purpose. It just worked out that way, and thought it was time, well overdue, to have him back 104 episodes later. And that's Sports Cards Live's Jeremy Lee. Glad to have him on the show. We talk about, his new ventures, and including tag grading, and how his role and hobby career has changed for the better for him. We're going to talk about sort of current market and how you sort of can take advantage while others are complaining maybe about prices. It's a great opportunity to buy some things. So we're gonna cover a lot of ground in a 40-minute span, if you will, and battling a little bit of a kind of a chest cold type of deal. But as I always say, the show must go on, and we fight through it. We don't miss too many shows here at Sports Card Nation. So if I do, I'm probably pretty sick. So we're going to keep plugging, and glad to have Jeremy Lee back on the program. So without further ado, let's get this show started.
This is Sports Card Nation. Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
Hey there, this is John Keating from That 70s Card Show with a friendly reminder that the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
Zion cases are the best card cases in the hobby. One quick walk around the National or even your local card show will bear that out. Whether it's a case to protect your one single Grail card or to hold and protect many of your precious cards, look no further than the Zion cases. And don't forget, our backpack cases have no equal. Check us out at www.zioncases.com and remember to use promo code SCN10 to save an additional 10% off your order. Zion Cases. We protect the hobby. Happy to have my next guest back on the sports card at Moco guest line. This is his second time on the show. He was on episode 99, which for this gentleman seems apropos. Everyone kind of knows the number 99 is the most famous athlete that wore that was Wayne Gretzky. It's been too long. If you do the math, this is episode 203. So something like, I don't know, too long, and time to have you back. And from Sports Cards Live, Collectible Live, Tag Grading, I probably left something off, not on purpose, Mr. Jeremy Lee.
Hey, thanks for having me, John. I gotta say, your intro video there is whoa, is that ever a nice looking video?
And I say the same. People that listen to the show regularly are going to hear the same thing. I always tell the guests, and then it's all downhill from there. So you've been in the hobby as long. We're at a similar age. We kind of we have similar backstories with when it comes to the hobby. We kind of talked about that on episode 99. About 4 months ago, you went full time in the hobby. I guess first question, Jeremy, was that something like was that the plan all along, or is that something that just sort of fell in your lap?
Yeah, so you're referring to tag grading, and I joined tag. I joined tag really the beginning of September. So now I guess I can take you back quickly just to tell the story. In July of 2021, the company I worked for, I'm a CPA, the company I worked for was acquired by a bigger company. And right away, I kind of felt like this wasn't going to last for me terribly long. And, I would transition my way out. So I went to the National that year. I saw you there, John. We had dinner together. Went to the National that year in Chicago. And I took a couple of roll-up banners and I rented a table and chairs. And I had a station for myself within another friend of mine's booth. And I kind of went there thinking, I'm gonna have this little station to meet people, to network, but also to look for some opportunities because I could see myself transitioning out of my current career and role. So I did that. I met a lot of people at the show. And there was one point, I don't think it was probably on the Saturday, I was sitting at my table. I had some people I was chatting with, and I saw this group of gentlemen kind of waiting for me to free up. And when I did, they came over and introduced themselves to me as being the founders of Tag Grading, and they showed me a presentation on their iPad. And it was about a 2-minute presentation, and it blew me away with what I saw, because up until that point, I did not think that automated or AI grading was really possible and could be a thing. And they very quickly convinced me that they were onto something. So again, that was the end of July 2021. The next 5 or 6 months went by, and I stayed in mild communication with them until February of this year, when they reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we are just about ready to reveal ourselves to the hobby, and we would like to do it on your podcast." I said, "All right, that sounds good, but I need to learn more before I'm going to kind of align my brand with yours and basically give my endorsement." So I went to LA at the beginning of March to their facility right by LAX. And I saw the office, I saw the technology, I saw their whole setup and the way that everything was laid out for optimal processing. And I met the whole team. I met the person who is behind the architecture of the AI itself. I met the lead grader, who is the one who really liaises with the architect of the AI to make sure that the AI knows what it's doing. You can't just buy a computer at Best Buy and it's going to know how to grade a card. It takes years to teach that computer how to do it. And that's what these groups of people did, both the architect and his team and the lead grader and his team. And so I met all these people, spent a couple days, really got to know them. Well, I got to know as much as you can over about a 2-day visit. And then we decided to do the podcast. I agreed to do the podcast. So we agreed to do a series of 5 of them. And over the next, from that was March, I think we did the first one middle of May. So it took a couple of months. Over those months and planning these 5 episodes, I got to know them even better. And I got to know more about the technology, the slab, the transparent grading, the grading report, and the reason why they tried to do, the reason why 10 years prior they set out to create this. And I just realized, like, this is exactly what I'd like to be involved in. I really like what these guys are doing. I like the team, and I like this whole concept of consistent, reproducible, accurate grading that takes out the human subjectivity. So my job as a CPA, I was still in it right up until July of this year. I basically lasted a year. And on July 15th of 2022, my term there came to an end and I was a free agent. And I kind of, at that point, we had finished the episodes and started talking to them about, hey, maybe there's an opportunity for me. And they were like, we'd love to have you. And it took up until the very end of August of this year to basically shake hands and do the deal. And here we are now, beginning of, or where are we? The end of October.
Yeah. How much, it's anytime you make a change, right? You've been around a long time. I don't care what profession or what we're talking about. There's always sort of a nervousness, like, what if it doesn't work, or what if I don't like it, or, all sorts of things can go through our minds. I mean, how tough of a decision was it? Or was it really it was pretty easy?
John, it was easy peasy. Like, I was so ready to get out of my past career. And I believe so much in what Tag Grading is doing, and not just what they're doing, but in the team, the expertise there, just what they're trying to do. I believe in it so much that the decision was very easy. becoming a part of the team, I invested some money into the equity of the company as well. So I'm not just like an employee, let's say. I bought in, because I believe in it, and I think it just shows how much I believe in the company and what we're doing. So the decision wasn't hard. Now, moving forward, I've also decided that I'm probably not going to pay my dues anymore, my professional dues. Like I don't really need to be a CPA anymore. I want to be working with TAG for the rest of my career. And, should that change abruptly for whatever reason, I'm okay with that. I think I'd be able to find something else in the hobby which is where I'd like to be, because I love it so much. And as you know, John, doing content as much as you do and as much as I do, that keeps us pretty busy. And I've monetized my content to the point where it's done okay for myself. And so, I mean, we'll see where the future, you never know what's in store in the future, but I just believe in what we're doing so much that I think it's going to be successful. So I'm probably 95% confident, 5% nervous.
All right. Well, listen, you know your stuff. You're very familiar with the grading space. It's not your first rodeo. Time to take a quick break, but we'll be right back after that with more with Jeremy Lee.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s in Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
Glad to be back. More with Jeremy Lee now. Speaking of that grading space, kind of a two-pronged question here, right? It's hard to really crack into it with what people would consider the top three, the top four, depending on who you talk to. I'm going to let you kind of do a sort of but kind of speak to TAG. What do they do that these other that's going to stand out from these other existing companies that have been here a while? And I guess my piggyback question is, you've made a lot of friendships with these other grading card companies. Are you worried? Like in business, you can't really be worried about that, but is it a concern like how your friendships will? It is a competitive space. Are you worried like with friendships?
Yeah, that's a really astute question. It's an important question too. And you're right. I've made a lot of contacts from PSA to SGC to Beckett. I've never interviewed or had anyone from SGC on my show. If I did, it would be Peter Steinberg. I think he's an exceptional young man. And but what are we doing different? Well, first of all of those four major human grading companies are human graders. And just by virtue of being human graders, there is subjectivity. There is bias, whether it's conscious and overt or subconscious and not overt. There is subjectivity in it. And we just know that for a fact because there's inconsistency. There's inconsistency between grading companies, and there's inconsistency within each of these grading companies. They just cannot grade the same card, the same grade every time with any certainty. And that's fact. So what TAG is doing is TAG is putting out there that, listen, our system will read one card the same way 1,000 times and give you that same grade 1,000 times. There's no inconsistency. And so we also grade on a 1,000 point scale, and then we assign an industry standard equivalent. So we actually open up the grading scale to more precision. And I think that's really important. We have these stickers in the hobby, the MBA, the PWCC I appeal. And I think these are helpful. But what TAG does is it lets you know right away, is this a strong for the grade 9? Is it an average? Is it weak? Because we have a range of, we basically take what PSA has, an 8, an 8.5, and a 9. We have an 801, an 802, an 803, all the way up to 900. So we have 100 different points in there where they only have 2 or 3. So we're offering that. And that goes for all the human grading companies in terms of their just inconsistency and subjectivity. And now listen, all that said, John, I have a comprehensive collection of cards slabbed by PSA, mostly PSA, some Beckett. I think I have one SGC card and 3 CSG cards, something like that. And at TAG, we're not out to bash anybody. We're not out to recreate the grading standards. We're simply applying automation to existing generally accepted grading standards. But we're grateful to PSA and SGC in particular because they laid the foundation, and then Beckett came around a little bit later, not much later, still in the 90s. But we're grateful for these grading companies to really build the hobby into what it is today and to lay the foundation for grading. Now, what we're doing is we're taking it a step further and we're applying, again, automation, no bias, no subjectivity, objective grading, and transparency. You can scan the QR code on our slabs and it'll take you to what we call the DIG report, the Digital Image and Grading Report. And this gives you all the metrics that the computer assessed the card's condition. It gives you a list of all the defects. It shows you where they are. You can click. It'll take you right to the card. Our digital image and grading reports are pretty amazing, actually. There's too much information on them, to be honest, but you don't have to look at it all. We also have 8 subgrades instead of 4. I've stopped believing in 4 subgrades. I don't think it makes sense to take a centering grade and have one final grade for the front and the back, because what's the front worth versus the back? How are you weighting these? However you're doing it is subjective. It's just based on a standard or an opinion that you're coming up with. So we actually give you your centering grade for the front, centering for the back, and then you can decide what's more important to you and if you want to find a card with higher front centering than back centering. And we're doing that across the board. Plus, we give you the exact measurements of the card to the thousandth of an inch, because you're looking for 2.5 by 3.5 inches. We give you that right on the report as well. One of the awesome features, in addition to those things, John, is that our label, our flip, is transparent. There's no paper in our slab outside of the card. It's printed on the inside of the plastic itself. It's UV cured, printed in white ink. They look really sharp. So the focus is on the card. There's no color match issues or mismatch issues because the label doesn't go with the card. No different labels for any grade. We do have a pristine grade, which just adds a nice little touch. The word pristine shows up. It doesn't change any colors or anything. So, we say transparent slabs, transparent grades, transparent process. When we're set up hopefully we'll be set up at the National next year grading on site, there won't be any black curtains hiding our process from the customers. We have nothing to hide. We want you to see your card get graded. I think that's pretty cool, actually. Should be quite the thing there for people to watch, especially for the first time. So that's kind of what TAG's all about. And again, when I compare the slab to the existing companies, our plastic is the clearest. There's that's not an opinion. That's a scientific fact. I think that when you look at the 4 major human grading companies, to me, CSG with their new slab and label has the nicest slab going. I love the look and feel of it. It's very clear. It just feels good in your hand, but it's not as clear as TAG's. If you put them beside each other, you'll notice that the CSG slab has a bit of a blue tint to it. Ours is perfectly clear. Plastic's clarity is measured on a scale of 1 to 60, where crystal is a 60. TAG slab is a 58. I don't know what the others are for sure, but I'm certain that they're lower because you can just tell by looking at them with your naked eye. So, I don't know where Beckett's and PSAs fall or CSGs, but we don't have no black borders around. It's all about the card, not about the slab.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. I've said this on my show millions of times. I'm a sucker for acetate cards, just in general. I like that clear aspect. So I've seen the slabs. I'm not gonna lie to it. They're sharp looking.
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
Introducing the only auction house dedicated exclusively to the cards of the 1990s. Josh Adams and John Linden have created an auction company solely for the rare, scarce, and hard-to-find inserts and parallels of the 1990s. Whether it be basketball, baseball, football, or hockey, 90s auctions will have it. Each auction will consist of smaller lots between 100 and 120 lots, so your cards won't get lost in the shuffle. Founded on the principles of fairness, honesty, and integrity, 90s Auction was created by collectors for collectors. Register and consign today at 90sauctions.com. That's 90 little s auctions.com.
Let's go! You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
I think you answered the question already, Jeremy. I was going to ask you, being transparent, like worrying about that grade and that information maybe fading or blurring or, kind of almost like ink spreading. But I think you said you kind of answered that with the technology used to etch it inside that slab.
Yeah, it's UV cured printing. I think it's actually 30 layers of ink that go onto it. I've seen the print. We have a big industrial printer to print the labels and the slabs, and it goes back and forth several times. I think it does 30 layers, and that's, I think the most that we could get before the top layer of the slab was going to now crush the ink. So, but I mean, I felt it. Even 30 layers is minuscule of ink. You can barely feel it with your finger, like a braille almost, but you can feel it. And that ink isn't going anywhere ever. And our slabs are actually UV. I forget the exact term, but like extreme UV protection for the slab itself to protect your card that's in there. Yeah.
You mentioned something I find pretty interesting. You mentioned maybe next year at the National, actually grading out front where people can see the process and the graders. I mean, I just how my mind works, my goofy mind. Like I could see like groupies and their favorite graders, or the opposite, right? Someone they don't like and they heckle them like someone at a sporting event. Like, you stink, Mike. I'm kidding. But, that's a little bit added pressure, I think, for a grader. I'm putting myself, all joking aside, I'm sort of putting myself in their shoes. It's one thing to do it behind the curtain or behind closed doors, but to do it, and at the National, no less. It's not like it's an office tour where 10 people come in and say, hey,
Keep in mind, though, John, it's not a grader. The grader is the computer. The computer does the grading. But we have humans involved. The humans are involved in operating the digital image, the image capture machine. That, I mean, you need to put the card into the image capture. You need to then move it over to be slabbed. You need to operate the welder to slab. You need to operate the printing machine to print the slab. So there are humans involved, but there's no human grading going on. The machine captures the data, runs it through its multitude of algorithms, and I can't speak to that technology, but runs it through. I've seen it, but I don't know the coding. It runs it through the algorithms, and that spits out all of the data points, which are then rolled up in through another set of algorithms and that to come up with the final grade for the card. So that's what people will be able to watch, is the grading machine in action.
All right. So my next, I got to ask this, like, has there been testing done where the same card was, let's say, run 10 times just to see what the result were 10 times? And how is that accuracy in that testing?
Yeah, no, another important question. So yeah, we have run, I mean, and this goes back probably 2 months now when I first heard the figure, like 250,000 cards have been through the system. I've said you could run the same card through 1,000 times and you will get the same grade within 8 1,000ths. So 8 1,000ths, if you think about that, whereas with human grading companies, you can send the same card in and get 3 different grades on 3 different times. You get a 6, a 7, and 8. That's a range of 200 1,000ths or 20%. We come in under 1% at 8 1,000ths. So that's kind of the consistency that we're trying to tighten that up to 4. Will we ever get all the way there? It might be tough just because of the card can change over time. The quality of the air. We have mechanisms in place to make, like, listen, I don't want to say never, but I think it's a 1 in a million times that you'll get a slab back from TAG and there will be any foreign particles inside the slab. And we see with other companies, you get hair in there all the time. There's dust. There's all sorts of things in there. With TAG, you will get maybe 1 in a million times you'll see a foreign particle inside the slab. That's something very important to TAG, that you get a real clean item back. But yeah, you will. The same card has been tested. You said 10 times, I think. I don't know the exact number, but just knowing our team, probably more like 100 or 200 times.
All right. I appreciate hearing that, because that's going to be, I'm sure you've been asked that already. I'm not the first one.
That was one of my first questions, of course. Yep. That's a great, I wasn't going to, leave I might have left my career anyway, but I wasn't going to jump into tag, put my career into tag, invest my own money into tag, and not be 95% certain that they were doing everything the right way. I mean, I wouldn't have done that. I love the hobby too much. I love my fellow hobbyists too much. I love my cards too much, because I'm going to put my cards in tag slabs. I think they look the best in tag slabs. I trust the grading with tag way more than I do with any human grading company. That just comes from experience. And again, not to slag on them, but they do the best that they can, but they can't do any better. And that's just the limitations of the human limitation. And there's nothing that can really be done about that. So that's why, I'm, as I say, I'm all in on tag, because it's bringing to the table something that has been a gap in the hobby for so long. Just that the fact that you can get a card graded and then decide you might want to try to get a bump. The whole fact that people try to get a bump tells you that there's no consistency. Everyone knows that. It's also like, if you're going to pay to get your card graded the second time, what did you pay for the first time? Did you pay them to give you a bad opinion followed by a better opinion? So, I mean, it's like, it's just the whole resubmission game that people play. It's I think it's a really bad look on the hobby for people who don't know the hobby looking in. They're like, really? That's how it works? Like, yeah, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're like, actually, no, it doesn't. Yet there's tens of thousands of us, John, you and me included, who went along with it for so long. I'm fine. I'm not going along with it anymore.
No, I appreciate your candidness and your honesty. Like you said, you put your own money behind this product. If you didn't believe in it, you could have probably easily said, "Hey, I'll talk about it, but my cash is staying in my bank account."
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
Let's talk about you. You're no longer in the corporate field as far as in accounting, but you're kind of how you feel. Like, are you doing more traveling? Do you have more home time? Sort of like what compared before you made the switch to where you're at now?
Yeah, no, thanks for the change in the topic to that. I appreciate it, John. Yeah, so I'm based in Calgary still. Tag is based in Los Angeles. And, while we talked about me moving down there, I just really decided I couldn't uproot my family. I have 2 young kids. I couldn't really uproot my family, move to Southern California. So I decided, and, we agreed, myself and Tag, that I would commit up to a third of my time basically traveling and being in LA. And since we announced I was joining, which was while at the first day of the Burbank show, August, whatever that was, the end of August, I've been traveling a ton because I've been going to shows representing Tag. And I'm leaving in a couple of days for Montreal, then Toronto in a couple of weeks. And I'll be there set up as a vendor, but I will also be representing Tag at these shows. So I've been doing a ton of travel. But when I'm not traveling, John, I'm at home and I get to work from home now. Previously, I worked, COVID had its times where you weren't in the office, but for my whole 25 or so year career as a finance professional, I was always working out of the office, and I didn't have kids for most of that time. So I didn't really understand the the sacrifices that people make leaving the house every day to go to work. And so now I'm home. I get, it allows me to help my wife out. She works from home as well. So she has meetings. We have to juggle the office. And so it allows me to help out with the kids, take them to school. I can go pick them up. I can do all these things that I couldn't if I was out of the house from 8 till 6 every day at the office. So for that, I have much better work-life balance. And I'm working in the hobby. It doesn't feel like work, John, just like doing content doesn't feel like work. Just like, I have three kind of pillars in my life right now that are all hobby related. There's my job with Tag. There's my content, which takes up a lot of time. And then there's managing my personal collection and my personal inventory. That's a whole other kind of side hustle, if you will. So the hobby is dominating my life right now. Outside of that, all I have is my wife and kids. And on Friday nights, I go play poker with my buddies at my one buddy's house. So that's my life.
Not too bad. Listen, I have a 22-year-old son, but he wasn't always 22. And, they don't stay 3, 4, 5 for too long. And so the fact that you get to spend more time at that age, even is I don't want to, I'm sure I'm speaking for you, but I'm sure you're counting your blessings that you get to do that. Like you said, I appreciate you saying, even helping your wife being home where you're present, at home. And some people don't have that luxury. So the fact that you do, and you're not taking it for granted, and that's awesome to hear, and happy for you. Let's talk about shows. You mentioned travel. We've seen explosion of shows in all different parts of the country. What do you, on a personal opinion? What do you think we can get to too many of these where there's oversaturation? Are we there maybe already, or are we potentially at risk for just the market or the hobby won't sustain that many, big time shows, let's say?
Yeah. Again, man, you're full of the great questions tonight. I think there's a couple things going on there. First of all, sorry about that. I've been hearing about some cities are having 3 shows going on the same day. I think that's not good. I think that within a single market, promoters need to kind of communicate and cooperate that way. At the end of the day, it's a capitalistic society. This is a business for a lot of people, and if they want to put on a show, they're going to put on a show. So, but it would be nice. It would be optimal if they would communicate and try to just stagger their shows. So that's the first thing. Second thing, during the pandemic, you had the Dallas show kind of rise up and become the second most talked about, hyped up show people were excited about. And at that time, I think it was I don't know how often it was. I think it's once every 2 months now, I've heard. I think that might be too frequent at the end, in Q4 here of 2022, because I'm hearing just that there are too many shows and there's too much travel going on for people to stay on top of things. You had the Burbank show spring up this year as well. They're going to be back again in February. You've got Culture Collision in Atlanta, Chantilly, the National, the Expo in Canada that I go to twice a year. I don't know. Are there too many shows? For some people, there are too many shows, but for the people that live in those areas where the shows are happening that don't travel, lucky for them that there's too many shows because they now get to go to shows, right? So I think what's going to happen, John, like any competitive space, it's going to work itself out. The cream will rise to the top. Some will fall off. It'll find its equilibrium. It's just we're not there yet. And the narrative of the hobby is in content and elsewhere that it's like there's too many. It's got to be fixed. Well, that's just not how things progress. Things take time. They work their way towards equilibrium. They will get there eventually. But the funny thing is, and the challenging thing is that the greater hobby is cyclical, and the volume goes up and down. And so even if we get to equilibrium, by the time we're there, it might no longer be equilibrium. It might only be equilibrium for a week or two. And then all of a sudden, maybe we need more shows again. Who knows? So I think it's going to be a moving target. To me, it's not an important enough sort of topic to like gauge the whether the hobby is in trouble or not. And I don't mean the shows aren't important. I just mean that, the more shows, the more people are getting hey, the hobby or the people, right? That's your gospel. That's your mantra, your tagline. It's so people physically being together in a place and feeling that energy and doing those high fives, those fist pumps with each other, and really seeing. This is nice to see you, John, on my screen, but it's nicer to walk up to you and say, John, what's going on? And, one of those things, right? So I love shows. I think shows are where the hobby lives, shows and LCSs, because you're in person. So I don't know, man, a lot of words I've given you, no real great answer other than it'll work itself out.
No, I think you're right. I think the market will bear it out, right? If people want to go to the show, they'll find a way to get there. They'll get a plane ticket, a hotel. If it's travel, if it's drivable, they'll drive, right? And so that will, like you said, that will bear itself out. Promoters, have bills to pay too, or if they're doing shows and they're noticing like they're in a different area, like market wise, that'll be a decision. They'll have to determine that, or maybe like you said, even the frequency. Like maybe like Dallas, if Kyle feels like he's not getting the same attendance, maybe he goes every 3 months, for a year, quarterly. That's for him to determine. So I think the market will. I think you made a great point that the market bears a lot of stuff out, right? What people are willing to pay, even for cards, is what the market is.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com. Or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
We are back.
Seen sort of a whatever you want to call it, a dip, correction, reset. I don't call it a crash. That's you're more familiar with that word in the finance. That's more sort of doomsday. The hobby, like you said, the hobby is alive and well. It's going to be here after both of us are not. So I actually, like I've said on this show, and I think you feel the same way, like it's a great opportunity to buy some stuff that previously was just out of your reach of your fingertips. Now you might be able to get it. And, people who don't like prices coming down, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, tend to be people who don't plan on keeping anything for an extended period of time. There's nothing wrong with that, to each their own, but those are the ones that are probably the loudest complainants of prices coming down. For me, that's done this, 39 years. Like, we all want our cards to be worth as much. As anyone that kind of says that's being but I don't mind it so much because I've bought some cards in the last few months that prior I wouldn't even search for them because I knew where they were at. So you got to just take advantage of whatever, the market is giving you. You're kind of piggybacking off that, your thoughts on that topic.
Yeah. So like you said, the hobby will survive both you and I, John. And like something that I've said a few times is that as long as there are sports, there will be cards. And as long as there are people, there will be collectors. So the hobby's not going anywhere. It's not the dip of 2022 isn't going to kill the hobby. It might only make it stronger because it'll make the people who last, the businesses who last, the collectors, the investors, the flippers, the breakers, the LCSs, everything, they will become more resilient because they will have been through a little bit of adversity. Up, Q2 2020 through really Q1 this year, it was all roses and flowers and birds singing, right? No one could make a mistake in the hobby for that period of time, but that's just not a long-term reality. So, when you just made the comment that you bought cards now that you wouldn't even have searched for before, well, you wouldn't have searched for them in the 2020, 2021, 2022, but you would have searched for them in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, because that's the prices they were. So if you look at the index of the hobby, it was a very slow climb right through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s happened, things started to go up, and then we see this steep climb. We see some climbs in the 2000s and the 2010s, but we see a monster spike in 2020/21, monster spike, and then it's come back down, but it hasn't yet gone down to where it was in March of 2020. It's still above that. So if you were to just erase the pandemic and flatten that curve, it's a very respectable increase over time that anybody would be happy with. The reason why so many people are disgruntled is because it comes down to your entry point. If you bought cards in 2020, 21, 22, it's likely that you're in the red on them a little bit to a lot right now. It just depends what you bought and all that. But for you guys like you and me, John, who have been buying cards our whole lives, we didn't just start buying cards or even ramping up really. Our collections, it's like, take a card. My Michael Jordan rookie. I have a PSA 9. I bought it in Chicago in 2009 for $1,000. PSA 9. Okay. That card was trading up to, I think, like $80,000 it peaked at. And now it's down to, I saw one available for $15,000. Okay. So my $1,000 investment, call it an investment, even though the card's in my collection, not for sale, went up to about $85,000 for a moment in time in 2021. And now it's down to $15,000. How bent out of shape should I be? Did I lose $65,000? No, I didn't lose it because I didn't sell I didn't lose money. Did I lose the opportunity to make an extra 65 grand? Yeah. But do I care? No, because my card that I paid $1,000 for is still worth $15,000. That's still a 15x return, right? On my outlay. That's pretty darn good. Better than most investments have been since 2008. So you have to, zoom out, look at the overall. If you've been in the hobby a long time, you're feeling pretty good like you and me are. And now we're like, okay, now things are kind of back to, I can buy cards again now here in October 2022 that are only a little bit more than they were at the beginning of 2020. And that's a nice place to be. So we are in this dip relative to the peak that we had in Q1 2021. If you wipe that quarter out of the history of the hobby, it's a pretty respectable hobby. The curve is pretty respectable. No major pains, but there are some major pains for people that were buying in Q1, especially Q1 2021.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And listen, like you said, you bought that Jordan for you. You weren't thinking about necessarily what can I sell it for 3 years from now, 4 years from now. So you got $1,000 into it. If you were to sell it, you're going to make $14,000. You didn't buy it. I don't want to speak for you. You can correct me if I'm wrong. You didn't buy it and say, hey, when this hits what I perceive as like sort of a peak, I'm cashing it out. You can tell me you bought that for a PC. So
yeah, it comes back to what you were saying earlier, which is how long are you holding these cards for? I call that the horizon. How far out is your horizon to own these? John, I'm 50 years old, and I think when I'm 75, I'm going to sell my collection. So I have a 25-year horizon right now. If I bought a card in the last 2 years, which I have bought cards in the last 2 years, if they go down in value, I don't care, because I think that in 25 years, they will be worth more than I paid for them. And that'll be a good thing for my family, my children, my grandchildren, God willing, I have, and all that. That's kind of the horizon I'm looking at. So I don't mind these day-to-day changes in the values of the cards that I own. That doesn't bother me. Now listen, at the same time, I'm a human, and do I wish I would have sold my Jordan rookie for 50 to 75 grand in 2021 and then bought it back now for 15? Of course I do. Who wouldn't want to have an extra 50K in the bank, right? That's a lot of money. But I don't claim to be able to time the market. And as soon as I try to time the market, I figure everything will go the other way on me, and I'll just be in a worse place anyway. So I'm just going to do what I've always done, is just always be buying cards that I like, that make me happy. And if some of them are bigger outlays, I'm going to make sure I'm not buying the hottest rookie. I'm going to be buying more of a blue chip player, because I do have the financial implications on my mind. Because if I'm going to spend $10,000 on a card, that's a lot of money out of my family's operating account, let's say, that I could use for other things, for a vacation, whatever. So, I do think about the money, but I also know that some of the best collectibles I own are also some of the best investments I own.
Yeah, pretty sound advice. I think I speak for both again. We're in this for the long haul. You're talking about, when you're 75. I don't think I'll last that long, Jeremy. I'm going to try. I'm going to give it the old college try, but I think you have if talking about betting, if we were betting on that, I would put the chip on Jeremy Lee rather than me. But I enjoyed the conversation. It was good catching up. A lot of great topics, I think, and great points. Give out where people can catch everything you're doing. Tag Jeremy Lee himself. Take your time. There's no time limit there. So
thanks. I appreciate it. First of all, thanks for having me back, John. It's been fun chatting with you. Thanks for letting me share all my thoughts on these things. So yeah, on YouTube, my show is called Sports Cards Live. That's the name of my YouTube channel. Please check it out. Saturday night live interviews with the who's who of the hobby, including John Newman. So that's my YouTube channel. My Instagram is JLEE, so JLee _Sports Cards Live, and that's where I kind of announce my episodes and that. I'm also on Twitter, Sports Cards LIV1. I have the same issue that John had, where they cut you off and put a 1 there. So again, it's Sports Cards LIV1 on Twitter. And then for tag grading, we on Instagram, we are at tag grading, all one word. And our website is taggrading.com. So check that out. And as far as tag goes, we are new to the game as far as grading goes. But I think we're offering something that no other grading company is, and that really is based on transparency and consistency. And what I ask from people is just don't count us out, and just give us a chance to earn your trust and to earn your business. And while I recognize that that a lot of people in the hobby, the only thing that they really care about is where all the values in PSA. Why would you use anybody else? Well, not everybody is a flipper. Not everybody is just buying grading to sell. So if you are a collector, you want your cards to look as best they can in a slab, I would definitely recommend ours. And then here's the kicker, is that I do think that in time, whether it's 1 year or 5 years down the road, cards that are graded by tag will be looked at with the same amount of respect and value as those in any other grading company slab. So check out taggrading.com. We'd love to earn some of your business.
Well, it's been 103 episodes between visits by you. Way too long. I promise, as long as you'll come back, we won't make it that long for the third time. So thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Thanks, John. It's been fun. Appreciate it.
Like Jeremy just said, that was fun. Been 104 episodes since we had Mr. Lee on. Way too long, as I said. I promise it won't be another 104 before we have him back again. That's actually 2 years almost to the day. So that's crazy. But that will be a one-time 2-year span. So check out what he's doing, his channel, tag grading, traveling, busy guy, even though, he left the corporate world, he's still keeping busy, and also has more time for his family, which, is important. I preached that for a long time. So happy for him. So.
Are you a new sports cards collector or someone returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy hobby community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for many years with affordable breaks, helpful threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who genuinely care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. Also, find us on Twitter at MidwestBoxBreaks.
Hey folks, John here. Just wanted to remind you, use the discount code MBB10 for 10% off your first order at MidwestBoxBreaks.com.
Like the athletes we admire, the Sports Card Shop is changing the game. We're not launching threes, bombing drives, or hitting dingers, but we have built a unique gathering spot for all collectors to trade cards, talk sports, play games, and watch their favorite athletes on the big screens. Yes, we've partnered with Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf, Topps, Fanatics, Pokemon, and others to bring you all the latest in sealed wax and singles. But the Sports Card Shop in New Buffalo, Michigan is much, much more. Our recent expansion brings collectible sneakers, Hot Wheels, and more sports and entertainment memorabilia into the mix. Our new Collector's Cave game room is the perfect place to throw a rip party, bring friends, rip packs, trade cards, play billiards, ping pong, shuffleboard, classic arcade, and Xbox games, all while watching your favorite sport on TV. Visit us at thesportscardshop.com. Follow us on social @_sportscardshop, or better yet, visit us in person to learn about special events, party packages, new products, and everything we're doing for you. The Sports Card Shop, connecting people, sports, and the hobby around the world.
That's a wrap on another edition of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Thank you to all the awesome listeners out there. Without you, there is no us. Thank you to all our great guests who drive this show, and also our wonderful sponsors who help us produce the great hobby content every week. Remember, another Hobby Quick Hits episode drops every Monday, and Sports Card Nation returns again next Friday. If you like the shows, we appreciate those positive reviews. Be well, and always remember, the hobby is the people.